Fuzzbutts, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use a sewing machine. So there's a few different types of sewing machines you can get. I particularly like the heavy duty style sewing machines. I do want to get one that's a bit more intense for leather work, but this is great for fur, and it's pretty affordable for a first time machine. There's quite a lot of other fursuit makers who are using this, so it's pretty good. In terms of sewing machines, you can get a few different types of ones. These ones, basic ones, are a must-have. You need one of these to do pretty much anything. You can get embroidery machines, which do, you know, custom embroidery, normal embroidery, things like that. If you want to do kigurumi eyes, patterns, paw pads, that sort of thing. There's also another type of machine called an overlocker or a serger. Those machines will do something that's like a zigzag stitch, but more intense for doing the edges of your material. They will also tend to cut the material as they're sewing. Quite good, very expensive though, and they come with a million bits of thread up the top and they're pretty intense. But for everyday use, for making your first fursuit, for making other fursuits, for making a variety of fursuits, for overlocking, you can really just use one of these as well. Firstly, what you need to know is how to thread a machine. So I'm going to unthread this, and then I will show you how to thread it up. So this here is called a bobbin. This little piece goes in the bottom section, in here in your bobbin holder. I will show you guys how to actually thread one of these up for your first time. So you'll have an empty bobbin holder. Sorry, you'll have an empty bobbin. You'll also need some thread. What you'll want to do is at the top of your machine, I may have to lift the camera up for this just a touch. So at the top of your machine, you will have this back here, which you want to put your thread on. Yeah? Pop your thread on that. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. Up, up. Okay, it doesn't want to do that. So you pop your thread on there. Then what you want to do is up the top here, there will be a little marking. Most machines have that little marking. Let me make it focus again. That little marking right there. So this one is telling you to put your thread down across the back bit, like that, wrap it around, and then continue through. Cool. Once you get it there, you want to bring it over to this part here. This is your bobbin holder. What you want to do is get your bobbin, there'll be some little holes in it. You want to thread from the inside up through to the outside, just like that. Then grab your bobbin, pop it onto the bobbin holder, or bobbin threader, pop it across. That will engage the bobbin and stop your sewing machine from sewing down the bottom. And then you push your foot down and let it go. So I usually get it a little bit through, cut that part off, and then go all the way until it's done. So what happened there was the thread got so thick that it hit this little white stopper and it stopped it from threading anymore. That means that it's done. If your machine's is a little bit overfilly, so it doesn't let it stop, what you want to do is unscrew it and just adjust it inward until it's perfect. Now that your bobbin is threaded, you want to grab your thread, put it onto this section here. Get your little stopper, stop it from moving, give it a little bit of movement. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of movement so that it can move around. Grab your thread. You want to firstly thread it through these two. Make sure it engages with both of them. This is hard with one hand. There we go. So your thread has gone through those two. Yeah. Then step number 2 is bring it down this line here. Bring it down there. Yep. Step 4 is to bring it up and underneath this section. Now most sewing machines are pretty much the same as this. So once you've brought it up under that section, bring your foot up so that you can see just this little boy here. You want to get it up there, thread it through that so that it's engaged into that. Then bring it down here. You want to bring it down around behind this little metal piece, then down by your foot. Down by your needle. Sometimes, like my one, they will have this little metal bit here. You can actually thread your thread through that. This one has a needle threader. That goes through the needle. No matter what the height, it'll always go through the needle, unless you put the needle in wrong. And you pop it through there. You can pull the thread through, and you just finish the job. That's the top thread done. What you want to do with this is make sure that it goes through the foot and out the back. Otherwise it can tangle up, get really messy, not good. Then you want to grab your bobbin. Make sure that your bobbin goes in the right way. There will be, on this little thing, if you can see, it will show you the way it goes. So that will mean that the thread is wrapped around that way. The thread direction is going anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise, yep. So you want to put it in that way so the thread is going anti-clockwise. Then there's a little nub down in there for it to clasp onto, just there. Once it's engaged into that, you want to put your thread wherever. Manually, you want to use this boy on the side of your machine. Manually, you make it go through once. That little bit of thread will go across and engage the piece of thread on your bobbin. Pull that up and through. It loops up underneath. If you can't actually get hold of the little piece underneath, you can actually run a pair of scissors through and it will grab both pieces of thread and then pull it through. Now you've got both pieces of thread through the machine. You want to put them out the back and between the foot and the running feet. That's all set up now. Pop that back on and your machine should be ready to go. Now what you want to do is make sure that your tensions are set correctly. So I've got a piece of scrap fur. If you're using something thinner than fur, ignore this step or do it with your own piece of material. But for fur, you tend to need a very high tension. Mine's set on 9 at the moment, which is probably a little bit high. I find 7 works pretty well, but you'll have to test with your machine. You want to fold your fabric over so that the fur is on the inside, because that's how you're going to be sewing most of the time. Pop it in at the back of the machine. I'll show you at the back of the machine. this is how you put the foot down. You want to make sure that your foot down is, you want to make sure your foot is down every single time. Get this boy, the drive, the pedal. And then test it out. So, as long as no stitches have been missed, it means that it's set right. This is a little bit high, so I'll go a 5 on the tension, see how it goes. So a 5 was a little bit too loose, so now we go a 6. So this is for fur in particular. You want a thread that's heavy duty. For sewing fur, you want something that's still breakable, but strong. So this stuff is strong, but you should be able to break it with your hands, just like that. That is a perfect thread for fur, especially bodies. When you're sewing a body, you want that thread to be not so strong that you'll rip the fur apart from each other before the thread breaks, but you don't want it so weak that you'll end up breaking it every single time that you put the suit on. You want something in between. It's a good happy medium. So, testing that 6 tension, and that's come out perfect. So that one's the 6. Nice and tight. That's how we want it. You can go looser, but what I find happens is you end up with a big mess. Let me show you what happens. So say we go something like a 3. So what happens is that, and on the bottom you end up with that. That means your tension is way too loose. What's happening there is there's extra thread going down, and the bobbin at the bottom is not picking it up in time for it to pull it back up through. So that's how you tension for sewing fur. Now what we want to show you is how to use the stitching. I use a normal stitch, straight stitch, and I use a zigzag to finish edges. So the zigzag I would be using after I've used a straight stitch. So straight stitch through, get the edge nice, trim up any excess off the edge, and then get the zigzag stitch and go over that edge to overlock it. That's instead of buying an overlocker. Eventually I'll get an overlocker, but that's for future me to worry about. Just a basic zigzag stitch is enough to overlock your edge and give you a bit of extra sturdiness on your suit. So when you're using a straight stitch, what you want to do with that is length. It can literally be anything. You're fine. Width, always keep that at 0. Unless, and I'm not sure if your machine will do this or not, but if you set it very high, it will change the needle position. But if your machine has a needle position changer like this one does, that's a center needle, left needle, right needle, it'll just move the needle across. If you don't have that, sometimes your machine will require you to change the length or width to change your needle position. Most of the time, straight stitches are just on 0. The second type of stitch, a zigzag stitch, the length, you probably, you can set it very small, but it might end up a big mess, not moving far enough. I usually find anything from 1 above works really well. Less than 1, it can be used as an embroidery, but you have to be you have to be wary if you overlap too much and end up with a big mess underneath your bobbin. Very hard to pull out of the machine once you've really tangled up your thread under there. So, you know, if you're confident enough, go for it. Use a zigzag in very small as an embroidery feature, but anything more than one is good. I usually find 3 is a perfect length for both straight stitch and zigzag stitch as a general feature, general terms. In width for a zigzag stitch, if you go 0, it'll look like a straight stitch. If you put it about 4 or 5, that's usually a good place for overlocking an edge of material. Now let me show you how to overlock this edge of material. So, say that you've just, ignore those ones, say that you've just sewed up your suit across there. You've put those 2 pieces together and now you've got on the inside this big edge. What you want to do with that is overlock it. Otherwise, what's going to happen is over time, as you're wearing your suit, you'll get bits of fur coming back through the suit and it's not going to look so nice and it's not going to feel so nice on the inside. So what we do is we overlock the edge with a zigzag stitch. What you want to do is cut it to about that length. Make sure all your edges are about that length, you know. That's about a 4 width, which is what I've got it set to. You want to set your foot down just on the edge of that fabric. So you're halfway in between the edge of the fabric and the straight stitch that you did before to sew your suit together. Now what you want to do is go forward, reverse a little bit, and continue this stitch. Now I've fucked that up, but it's fine. So that's pretty much how you overlock. And that'll just hold your edge together a little bit better so that you don't end up with frizzy bits coming on the inside. So the last thing I want to show you guys how to do is to change your feet out. Okay, so there's this little lever at the back here. You just want to push that. That releases your foot. Most machines will have a lever of some description there. And then in this little front pocket, I've got another type of foot. So probably the most common other type of foot you'll use is called a zipper foot. So to get a foot to go on, you can do it a few different ways. You can put it down onto the base there, just under the clasp. You can actually put the actual foot mechanism down, release the foot pickup, and it'll pick up the foot. Thanks for watching, Fuzzbutts. I plan to upload new content every fortnight, so please subscribe and ring that bell. And don't forget to absolutely obliterate that like button. Check out my website and Twitter in the description for all of my latest fursuit projects.